Broadcasting from the heart of the nation, the next generation in conservative talk radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Why, darn right it is. What is up? Welcome into it, my friends. It is a Friday. Hey, happy Thanksgiving to you. Yeah, we are live here post the Thanksgiving Day as we get you set for the weekend. The holiday kind of continuing on after your turkey day from yesterday. Hopefully you are still recovering from your tryptophan hangover, all the turkey that you gorged yourself on and the nap that you took yesterday afternoon. That celebration hopefully continuing throughout the day today as well. So happy Thanksgiving to you. Hopefully it's been a great one. I will say that I thoroughly enjoyed my Thanksgiving. Mrs. Voice of Reason rocking it on that Thanksgiving turkey this year. Yeah, that was fantastic. The homemade cranberry sauce, the cranberry juice that I have been gorging myself on the turkey. I got to admit, it turns out great every year, but this year turned out especially good for whatever reason. It was probably the best one that she's made. Everything came out perfectly, and it was absolutely phenomenal. So happy Thanksgiving to you, and happy Thanksgiving to your family. From ours to yours, it's a very special time. It's a very unique holiday, obviously, for the United States compared to other parts of the world. And while other cultures and other nations have their way of trying to bring family and friends together and appreciate what they have in life, we do that especially one time a year. We should be doing it all the time to be thankful for and to appreciate everything that we have in our life. But especially this time of year is really important. So happy Thanksgiving to you. I have been really encouraged to the fact that we have not heard much of the other side really throw a fit about Thanksgiving, about how evil pilgrims were, or the Western expansion, or taking over land, or all this other garbage that we hear. I've been encouraged not to hear as much. I'm sure it's still going on. Have not heard a whole lot of it spread around the mainstream media as kind of a focal point. So to me, that's a positive. Well done. Let's pat ourselves on the back for that one. And let's continue on with that, right? Maybe the woke culture, maybe the America-hating left is still hiding in their holes, crawling under the rocks with the transition that's about to take place and what's about to happen in 2025. So hopefully you had a wonderful time with the food and the family and the football or whatever else it may be for your Thanksgiving holiday. Welcome into it. First and foremost, welcome in. This is the show, the Voice of Reason. I'm Andy Hoosier. You know what we do.
Do it live!
That's right. You know what we do here each and every day. Bottom of the hour, we have James DiEugenio. He is, I'm going to slaughter his name. I apologize. But he's got his latest book discussing the JFK Assassination files. And could we see some disclosure on the JFK assassination under the new Trump administration? If you remember, during the conversation that Donald Trump had with Joe Rogan, he had mentioned that he's going to release those files, that it's finally time to do so, that he got bad advice from the last time he was in office to not disclose them. So this time he said he's going to. What could we find? And what could potentially be hidden for all these years as a secret from the CIA or FBI or whoever else was involved in that assassination attempt? I guess that's part of our weird news, right?
Weird news of the day.
I don't know. I think that's kind of mainstream, just assumption that everything was done, at least by the government in some portion, for that assassination. So we'll have some fun with that coming up at the bottom of the hour. As we speak about Thanksgiving and we look at some of the holiday traditions and the festivities that have been going on across the nation yesterday and today, I don't know what it is, but Donald Trump apparently is really fascinated with the song YMCA. And if you've seen any of the video, he had his big celebration yesterday at Mar-a-Lago. A lot of people there, everybody dancing to the YMCA, which is very entertaining, including the media meltdown, man. This is where I guess that's all they have left to do is just complain about what Donald Trump's doing in our latest of
What's Trending Today.
And I don't mean to focus on some of the negative garbage going on, but it is kind of just funny where they don't have anything else to talk about, so they complain about who's hanging around Donald Trump, like Elon Musk. Why isn't Elon Musk hanging out with his own family? Why is he there at Mar-a-Lago? Why is he so obsessed with hanging out with Donald Trump? Why is Elon Musk so socially awkward? Now, remember, Elon Musk is one of those where he's maybe a little bit awkward because he's like the smartest dude on the planet, and he's the richest guy on the planet, and he's kind of a genius. And most times when you're an insane genius like that, you're a little bit socially awkward. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way every genius has been all throughout time. But it's a little bit long, but this is really worth listening to, because whether they're just trying to fill time from the media or whether they're really trying to find a way to bag on Donald Trump, which there's probably both in that scenario, that they had CNN went on a tirade this morning about what was going on at Mar-a-Lago yesterday.
All right, well, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. And I do want to ask both of you about some video
If you haven't seen this video yet of Elon Musk getting chummy with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago for Thanksgiving, they were apparently dancing in their chairs to YMCA. There's Barron Trump next to the president-elect, but there's Elon Musk right next to him in his X sweater, I think, and a blazer. But, Tara, this does raise a lot of questions about what Elon Musk's role will be in this incoming administration. Just this week, he has been targeting federal employees on X. He has been going after people like Colonel Alexander Vindman, accusing him of treason the other day on X. And he's been given this very big platform with the government. According to Donald Trump, he's going to be finding areas to cut in the federal government. What do you make of this relationship?
Now, what's that relationship like? He's going to be cutting the federal government. He's been attacking different government employees and government officials. He's going after them. He's going to look at what's going on here. And then he's just chummy with Donald Trump. Really? This is a news report? This is why your ratings are in the tank, CNN. This is why MSNBC is on the brink of financial ruin, and why Elon Musk may be buying up MSNBC, which would be hilarious to watch, because that's what they have. This is their attack on Donald Trump. Now, remember, we said after the election that they really were essentially powerless and people don't trust them anymore. So the question is, how are they going to respond to that, to rebuild their credibility and move forward to hold an administration accountable, which we need to do. Everybody needs to hold every administration accountable, from the left and the right, to actually ask the proper questions, to make sure no weirdness or shenanigans are going on, and to do real journalism, to actually expose potential corruption going on within an administration from both sides of the aisle. If Donald Trump's doing something shady, I want to know about it as much as I do with a Barack Obama administration, a Joe Biden administration, a George Bush administration. I want to find it. I want to know. They're not, though. Which, by the way, have you heard Donald Trump's press acceptance for the press room may not have a whole lot of the mainstream media there again. It's going to be more podcasters, social media influencers, and others that are kind of the alternative medias, quote unquote, and the mainstream not very happy about that, saying that somehow that's silencing freedom of speech by allowing new people in there. Because remember, this is the elite crowd that thinks that they hold on to the pinnacle of information and the flow of information, and the fact that they're becoming null and void, and that podcasters have more of an influence than they do, they don't like, and they haven't quite learned to accept that yet, and they're trying to figure out what actually went wrong. So with the fact that remember, this was back in the day when the first time Trump came into office, they were mad that Sebastian Gorka, a talk radio host who's now going to be part of the Trump administration, but a talk radio host at the time, was actually getting a press pass, and how some of the mainstream media guys got in screaming matches with Sebastian Gorka. You're not supposed to be here. How dare you actually be here? You're not part of the cool kids club. What are you doing at the press conference for the White House? Because you're not a real news person. You're not a real journalist. Remember those? Now imagine an entirely different Trump administration when the people you see in the press room every day for the daily press briefing are podcasters, our social media influencers, and our talk radio hosts. They would lose their minds. They would lose their absolute minds. It's kind of funny. But nonetheless, so now they're trying to just do the slander of the character assassinations against people like Elon Musk and others. What are they doing getting chummy with Donald Trump? Why isn't he there with his own family?
It's all really creepy. But money talks, and it's clear that Elon Musk has a motive here. He sees by cozying up to Donald Trump, he's going to have influence in ways that he's never had before. Not just being he's had a lot of influence being the richest man in the world. But this is a whole different thing. He's literally taking on the role of, favorite son, first lady, and shadow president.
What? Oh, man. I guess that's all you have. That's all you have, CNN. Well done. Pat yourself on the back. Was that another one? That was another big failure on your part. By the way, speaking of Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, the DOGE that him and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to be running, they've talked about the number of dollars that they can actually be cutting, the number of government employees that they could be cutting. And while that's really the motive here from the media, is they're upset that the establishment, shadow government elitism is going to the wayside. And again, they're not quite sure how to handle that because, let's be honest, it's never been done before. So how do you respond when your government agencies that you have now made as a part of society are going to go away and you have to adapt to that? They don't like change, especially in change that doesn't benefit them. So that's the real character assassination attempt here, is why this creepy, weird, awkward guy is hanging out around Trump and then wanting to cut out all these agencies and just put people on the streets that are public employees, a.k.a. government individuals and government bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. There's a report that came out of Breitbart just yesterday, I believe, or today, this morning, that said that Donald Trump, on his first day in office, even before DOGE takes effect and does their review, that's going to take them a year, where they report on July 4th of 2026 for their findings for the government efficiency program, that even on day one, he has near $1 trillion, that's with a T, $1 trillion worth of cuts that he could be doing at the federal level. And just right out of the gate, from spending that we're currently doing that we see as potential overspending at the federal level, where we could fine-tune it and make things run more efficiently. And right there, when Joe Biden, if you remember, over the past couple of years, after COVID-19, when he spent the $2 trillion in additional COVID-19 spending because of the relief and all the ARPA money that went out to all the states, that, by the way, the states are still spending and city councils are still spending and county commissions are still spending right now. All that money went out the next year. We didn't spend the additional $2 trillion on COVID relief. So Joe Biden came out and praised himself for cutting the federal budget by $2 trillion, meaning we went back to spending prior to the COVID pandemic, when we did that additional money for the relief that we spent completely unwisely and has been a complete disaster across the nation. Now he praised himself for cutting spending at the federal level. It's not true, because we just went back to normal spending that was completely absurd, and we're still $1 to $2 trillion a year above spending, above our budget, which is why we're $35 trillion in debt. But the Trump administration could be cutting $1 trillion right out of the gate, actually maybe making us net neutral for the federal government for the first time in who knows how long. And then we do the DOGE and start doing massive cuts, and we could see things start going in the positive for the first time in a very long time. Because of that, though, because of the potential funding cuts, because of the money that may not go out to the states in this concept of the government supporting states to fund the programs that they want, there is a new plan from the Democrats that have come out with their Countering Trump 2.0.
What's trending today?
And that one comes out of the latest piece from Politico.com, where there's a state legislator out of the state of New York, State Senator Liz Krueger, who has officially pitched the idea that multiple states in the northeast corner of the country, including New York and others, those blue states that went towards Kamala Harris and that are trying to fight against Donald Trump, has now announced a plan to secede from the United States and join the nation of Canada. Why? Because, well, apparently Canada is going to be the socialist utopia that they've always been looking for, and the federal government's not giving them the money that they want. As they say, they're going to have to actually fund programs at a statewide level if Donald Trump begins cutting the aid that they have going to the states. Oh, no. How could we possibly do that?
We're all going to die because of you.
Yeah, so that's the plan, and they're not very happy about it. Donald Trump potentially cutting it. It's called federalism, and it's not a bad thing. We've been saying this for a long time for the Republican end. We could be a little bit more self-dependent, self-independent as a state, become self-sufficient, and actually cut out some of the federal aid that we're getting and the dependency that we have on the federal government. They need to learn that as well.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. When reason meets radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
All right, it is. Welcome back into it. 24 minutes past the hour. Happy Thanksgiving to you, or post-Thanksgiving. I have not heard yet of the mosh pits happening at certain stores across the nation for your Black Friday shopping. I have heard, however, that many stores are a little bit more concerned because the activity is slightly higher than what we've seen in previous years. With the excitement, anticipation of the Trump administration, the economy starting to come back and people feeling a little bit more confident about how the economy is going. So wanting to maybe loosen those pockets a little bit more and spending during the Black Friday. We have Small Business Saturday tomorrow. We have Cyber Monday. Now, obviously, nowadays, I don't even know if those days are significant anymore. Let's be honest. I don't know that they really are. I mean, you're going to be shopping from now until Christmas, and how convenient things are at the stores and online and however you do your shopping. I don't know that these days are necessarily significant, but it's still fun, I think. Although if you want to look at commercialism fun, I guess that's another conversation for another time. But the traffic from what we've heard is slightly higher today than in the previous years, the past couple of years under the Biden administration. What does that tell you? The economy up near 3.8%, and jobs coming back, gas prices down, inflation starting to come back down. Things seem to be rolling just by the anticipation of Donald Trump taking the office again. But yet we have the protesters that are out there. And I don't mean the protesters like the anti-Israeli protesters that interrupted the Macy's Day Parade yesterday to disallow it from actually starting, which was really fun to watch that video too, where they were being drug off the main middle of the street by law enforcement and people cheering, watching that happen. No, I'm talking about the disruption of the economy, where we have protesters that are proving that they despise one person more than they actually love the country. By the ones that say they don't want to purchase any goods or services for the next 4 years, so they're advocating to stock up on goods now so that way they can create a recession and crash the economy under Trump, because Donald Trump's economic policy shouldn't work, and therefore we're not going to allow it to work, so therefore we're going to let it crash. That's what we're hearing, the tweets from the inside of the Democrat Party and some of the progressive radicals. At the same time, this state representative or state senator from the state of New York advocating for secession of 13 states to go and be part of Canada and actually walk away from the United States. Now, imagine, if you will, I get it. There's been talk of secession from both sides of the aisle. They don't like what's going on. We just want to go off and do our own thing. Understand that. However, this is coming from an elected official that says we don't have the government doing what we want it to, and they're going to cut our funding on certain issues, like assistance for illegal migrants in our communities. They're going to be doing the deportations and rounding up some of the criminals, not all illegals, but the criminals that have actually caused crimes in the country and in our communities. We're going to not have the money to put them up in fancy hotels. We're not going to have the money to give them food stamps. We're not going to have the money to shut down YMCAs and turn that into hotels for them. We're not going to be able to do that anymore. What are we going to do? Trump's cutting off our funding here. We need to be part of a more socialized nation like Canada and join them. That's kind of wild to me, and that's taking things to the extreme, and that really goes against the entire narrative of what Thanksgiving's all about, right? Being grateful for what we have, trying to help out our friends and our loved ones, doing what we can to take care. I mean, this really shows the character of the progressives, if that's what you want to look at, of the fact that they're just going to tuck their tails and run. Fine, we didn't get our way, so we just want to become part of a different nation that treats us better because we need goodies and we want handouts. And if you're not going to give us handouts, we're just going to up and walk away. How is that being grateful for what you have and figuring it out on your own? State of New York and others. Although I say try it. Go for it. All the power to you, right? Because if that happens, what would that do to the electorate if we saw New York and other states walk away and not be part of the U.S.? It's not going to happen. I mean, this is all speculative and just in theory. But if they did leave, imagine how much easier it would be for Republicans to win national elections with an electoral college. If they did that, then imagine how easy it would be to change the narrative with some of the radical agenda they've been pushing for a while. By the way, comment on Facebook. When are the Hollywood elites going to be leaving the country like they promised? Well, Ellen DeGeneres just moved to the UK, so I guess there's that. I mean, if she's moving to the UK, that's the start. Maybe we'll see a few more, and maybe they'll become citizens of Canada. Lots more coming up for The Voice of Reason on a Friday. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. Truth, reason, and common sense. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
What the Harris campaign should have done, instead of avoiding Joe Rogan and podcasts, it turns out that Barron Trump, who looks like a runway model, was telling his father, you need to go on podcasts. You need to go on Joe Rogan. You know, he was 3 hours late to a rally because he was doing Joe Rogan because that was so important. So Barron Trump is a lot smarter than everybody in the Harris. They said they didn't go on Joe Rogan, the progressives around her. You heard what Carville said. the progressives didn't want to go on Joe Rogan. Look, if I'm running, I'm going on Joe Rogan. I'm living on Fox. That's how you change minds.
That's a great point. That is the speculation of what went right, what went wrong, and the fact that Barron Trump, the teenager under the Trump family, is now smarter than the entire Harris campaign. That's something to speculate there as the Democrats continue to eat themselves alive trying to figure out what went wrong during this last election. I know, right? Welcome back into it here on a Friday, your post-Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Happy Black Friday. Happy, holiday season now that we're officially into it, where you just count down the days to the end of 2024. There is some really interesting, odd news. We're not going to do it
Weird
right now.
News of the day.
No, we're not going to do that right now. We'll do that later, but there's some really odd news about things that we're seeing around the White House that could speculate, maybe, who knows, speculation. You can fill in the blank of what you think is going to happen there. But there's some interesting things going on with the beginning of the transition into the Trump administration. Let's get into what's trending, though.
What's trending today?
As we look at the transition, things that could be different from the past administration to the next administration on what we could see with disclosure. No, I'm not talking about UFO disclosure, although I hope we see that as well. But there is hopefully some change in disclosure on what we could see with some of the hidden documents, the classified documents on many different cases at the federal level that we have not been allowed to see, especially when it comes to the JFK assassination files. If you remember, when Donald Trump was on the Joe Rogan podcast, he made the comment that when he gets back in the White House that he will release the documents of JFK's assassination on what really happened there. Is that true? And could we finally learn the truth that we all know but have been called nut jobs for actually figuring out? To talk about some of that and so much more, really happy to have on the program. He is the co-author of the latest book, the JFK Assassination Chokeholds, that inexplicably prove there was a conspiracy. Really happy to have on here James DiEugenio. Jim, how are you, my friend?
Nice to be here.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. I appreciate you jumping on. All right, here's the big question. Are the conspiracy theorists correct in the fact that we know the narrative of what happened with the JFK assassination? Are we finally going to find out and be proved right that it's not really a conspiracy?
Well, I believe that's been proven already, okay? And that's one of the reasons we wrote this book, the JFK Assassination Chokeholds. But in relation to your question, this is a very interesting story when Trump went on the Joe Rogan show. Because if you recall, Trump had said that he was looking forward to declassifying the last of the JFK records back in 2017.
Right.
He made a tweet to that effect. Then, on the day it's supposed to be released, which I believe was October the 26th, all right, the CIA and the FBI marched into the Oval Office, and they read him the Riot Act. And he backed down and issued a delay first. Then at the end of the 6 months, he issued another delay. This time it was for 3 years. And that just happened to pass into the next presidency,
right,
which was Joe Biden's. And whatever you thought of what Trump did, delaying the release of the documents, what Biden did was in all likelihood worse, because not only did he delay, but he actually did something that was against the JFK Act. He actually gave all these agencies a seat at the table to plead their case not to defy, all right, which is against the whole spirit of the JFK Act, was passed in 1992. So now we have, through Joe Rogan, through Andrew Napolitano, and through Robert Kennedy Jr., there's going to be some pressure on Trump to release the last of the JFK documents. There's about over 4,000 of them that are still being either partly or fully classified.
Wow. It's wild that we still have all of this lingering. So Donald Trump, during that interview with Joe Rogan, made the comment that the reason he didn't was because of addresses or, the safety of certain individuals that could still be alive. Is that still the case? And why do you think it's still been being held up from actually being released for so long? I mean, this seems to be ridiculous now, I think.
The JFK assassination took place 61 years ago. All right? Does anybody really believe that somebody in his 90s is going to be in danger, okay, by what's released on one of these documents?
Yeah.
All right? Most of the time these guys go through name changes, all right, if you're a covert operator. And so in my opinion, I don't hold that as being very credible. What I believe, it's one of two things, all right? The CIA just does not want to buckle down and give in to this openness because they really, really don't like doing that. They like being above the law. Or B, there really is something in there that is compromising to the cover-up that they've, and there's no doubt about how they've covered this up. If you recall, this is what Tucker Carlson said on one of his last shows before he was fired by Fox, okay, that the CIA was complicit in the JFK assassination, all right? And we've lived in a dream world, ever since. Now, whether that's true or not is something else. Okay, but I thought it was interesting that the day after Tucker Carlson did that show, he got a call from Mike Pompeo's lawyer telling him to shut up.
I mean, that's a sign. You would think that would be a red flag in some fashion, for sure. So, if it is,
he was waving the red flag at the bull.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's say then they do release the documents and we find out about all this, and the CIA was directly involved with the assassination. Obviously, like you said, they try to hold themselves above the law. They've been doing all these things, not just with JFK, but I'm assuming then if it went for him, it's been doing it for years on many different operations all around the world. If that's the case, then what type of outcry do you think would happen? And while Trump's going in to, quote unquote, clean out the deep state and get rid of all this corruption behind the scenes, is it an agency that's able to be reformed, or is it an agency, do you think, that's too far gone?
Well, JFK was trying to do this when he was alive, okay? He wasn't very successful, all right? He did try, but he was not very successful. If these documents come out and it is now made clear that the CIA was complicit, although to be perfectly frank, I believe any of that stuff was incinerated, okay? But if there's anything that's really compromising, I think it's a question of whether the media decides to carry it or not. If the media actually decides to carry it, I think that there is going to be an uproar about reforming the CIA, okay? See, what JFK wanted to do originally, he wanted to limit or cut in half the covert operations budget and make it more of an intelligence gathering organization. All right? I actually think that that's what it should be. All right? That's what the CIA should actually do. The covert operations, if there are any, should be left to the military. Okay? That's what you have commandos for.
Right.
That's what you have Green Berets and stuff for. The CIA has done a lot of really, really bad stuff, okay? Like cocaine, helping cocaine runners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I believe that's the part that should be up for debate and should be reformed, all right? Although, you never know what's going to be in these documents. I can't predict it. And the reason I can't predict it is because there's supposed to be an index to these documents. That was part of the JFK Act. The index maintained by the National Archives is very, very scanty. You can't really tell what's in the documents. So I can't really predict what's going to be there.
Yeah. Well, it's a great point. Like you said, I mean, they could be shredding things as we speak right now, so we may never even know the real truth when we do actually release whatever documents that are related to JFK or other issues as well with covert operations, because even though we've tried to file motions for them to not be allowed to shred things, I mean, it's going to be like a Hillary Clinton 2.0 with hard drives, bleaching them and shredding them and beating them with a bat outside, making sure that no one's going to have access to these things once they move forward, which is kind of a scary thought. And could that compromise again, the trust that we have in the agencies and what actually the truth really was at the end of the day? Jim, hang on the line. We got to take a hard break here. When we come back, I want to talk about some more of this on not only the JFK assassination, but the Trump assassination attempts. And is there a link there? Was it just complete failure by the Secret Service? Was there something else going on because of the fear of these agencies of what could happen if Donald Trump got back into office, which is what's happening right now? It is the latest book. Go check it out on Amazon, other places as well. The JFK Assassination Chokeholds, as we talk about what the government's holding from us and can we clean up these agencies moving forward. It's going to be a tough task, but it's possible, maybe, hopefully, theoretically. We'll do some of that when we come back here on a Friday, getting you set for another weekend right here on The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. America's safe space for common sense. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yes, it is. Welcome back into it. Got a couple minutes left here as we wrap up your Friday today for The Voice of Reason. By the way, reminder, we will be live for our syndicated weekend program as well. Great radio stations popping up all over the country, growing like a Kansas weed, and we love you to death there. Interesting conversations we roll through your Thanksgiving Friday, your Black Friday. I want to see those mosh pits at a Walmart store somewhere. I want to show them, share them on the video, send them to us on our social media at Hoosier Reason, HOOSER Reason. Plus, our newsletter is coming out on Monday as well at HoosierReason.com. Sign up for that. Become the latest and greatest Hoosierholic, baby. Get her done. It's what we do here on this program. All right, right now we're having some fun talking about the potential document release of the JFK assassinations from all the way back when. Was the government involved, and what really happened back in the day with the latest book, the JFK Assassination Chokeholds, as we're hanging out with Jim DiEugenio as we co-author the book. We speculate on what's happening there, and can we clean up these agencies? Jim, as I mentioned going into the break, the assassination attempts on Donald Trump, were they just major failures from Secret Service in doing their job? Or was there something more malicious to them, do you think, as well, because of the concern Donald Trump's planning to do the same thing that JFK wanted to do back in the day?
The one in Butler was, that was so inexcusable that I think it borders on negligence, okay? And that woman had to step down, okay, who was the head of the Secret Service, because there were so many holes in the protection circle, all right? And I have to say, it sort of reminds me of what happened to Kennedy in Dallas. There were so many problems with the protection circle around JFK that really half the people involved should have been let go. But there was a huge cover-up about it, all right? It was barely mentioned. And they got, a mild slap on the wrist, okay, instead. At least this lady got fired, okay, for the one in Butler. But when you have to rely on your counter sniper to take out the guy who's already fired 2 or 3 shots, and if Trump would not have turned his head, he probably would have been killed. I think that's pretty awful. Yeah. I think that's really, really bad. I don't know anything about this Crooks guy. Okay, I don't know if he had Confederates. I don't really know that much about his background. there really hasn't been that much released about him.
And that's a cause for concern, isn't it? I mean, and then they cremate him before we actually get any details about an autopsy or we learn anything more. Like, he just disappeared and they don't release anything. And that, to me, is suspicious in the first place.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if his family wanted it that way, or I don't know, or if that's just the way that the authorities proceeded. But it is really interesting the way the guy kind of just disappeared, through a memory hole, okay? And we're not supposed to ask any questions about him, but it's very obvious that the Secret Service just collapsed that day. There were people, I'm sure you know this, there were actually people pointing at him.
Yeah.
On the top of the roof, So, yeah, that I've always believed this, by the way. The Secret Service is really one of the worst reviewed and one of the worst examined agencies that we have in the government. They're up there with the CIA for about how bad they are, all right, and how they needed to be reformed and cleaned out. I believe that's what should have happened with the occasion in Butler. There should have been a complete overhaul, and a replacement, all the way up and down that agency, although it only occurred at the top level. Yeah. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to be investigating about that incident.
I think that it's time, and maybe we're in the age now where we're going to see this information start to be released, whether it's all the information or whether it's little by little. But I'm hoping that disclosure on all fronts is going to be front and center for the new Trump administration. The cleaning up of the bureaucratic agencies is going to be a priority, although, like you said, it's going to be a hefty chore to see whether we can actually get it done or not. It is the JFK Assassination Chokeholds. Go find it on Amazon, other places as well. Jim, we appreciate it very much, my friend. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays. Appreciate you jumping on the program with us very much. Let's do it again real soon, brother.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, likewise. Good stuff. We'll get you back on again real soon. Interesting conversation. The speculation begins, and even if we do get the disclosure, will it be the full disclosure of the report? That's going to be the tricky part about all of this. Can we get these agencies cleaned up and running smoothly and actually do what they're supposed to do again? Or are they going to run on their own accord with the deep operations? Until then, everybody enjoy the weekend. Happy Thanksgiving. Back at it on Monday. This is The Voice Reason. We'll see you on the radio. Bye.